Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies again. Today I'm going to show you how to paint one of the new Mirebrute Troggoths. This is one of the new ranges for the Orc War Clans army for Age of Sigmar. It's a super cool miniature, really gnarly looking troll with a guy riding around on top of him. I'm going to be using a lot of contrast, a lot of washes, a lot of dry brushing for this, hopefully helping you guys get this to a nice tabletop standard really quickly, really efficiently. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Stick around to the end and see how it turns out. Thanks. So we're going to start with the actual undercoat primer. I get asked this in pretty much the comment section of all my videos. How do I prime my miniatures? Well, this is how I do it. An all over coat of Chaos Black spray, making sure that I get all the nooks and crannies. I don't miss out any of the bits. It's got to be a full, clean coat. I just use short controlled bursts. I go quite close to the model. It's not advised, but it's how I do it. As you can see, I'm spraying outside, which is of course the only place you should spray. Out in the great outdoors, plenty of ventilation there. And this is it, a full coat of black all over the miniature. And from then I'm going to move over to a zenithal prime, and I like to use grey sear for this. And this is from a top down angle. You see the angle I get it from now, something like this. And you're just trying to catch all the raised details on the top of the miniature. So basically, if you imagine that the sun is above the model, shining down, the things like top of his head, shoulders, arms, they're going to be brighter. Things like underneath his armpits and his inner thighs, that kind of thing is going to be a lot darker. And using a lot of contrast paints over this, it really helps give that kind of definition and detail. Same thing again, same distance, just those short bursts. And this is what it looks like. So for anyone wondering, this is how I get my models ready to paint from this. Okay, so we are going to start with the most predominant color on the figurine, which is going to be the orange skin for the troll. I like to do all my squigs and trolls and all those kind of creatures in an army the same color, just to tie them all together and make it seem like a cohesive army. So this is the orange part for the troll, and it is contrast orange, and I'm just going to put this all over the skin of the troll. Trying to avoid the like kind of fur skirt that he's wearing. That's going to be a bright brown color in a little while, so I'm trying to be a little bit careful going around that. As you can see, like I've said in many videos before, it's a heavily loaded brush to use contrast. You basically want to create a big pool on the leg and just drag that pool of contrast around to the places that you need it. As you can see, I did that entire leg, and I'm still going back without filling my brush. You just want to take your time, make sure you don't miss any bits and pieces, and just get the whole thing orange. And this is the body, and then we're just going to move on to, it took me a second to actually figure out if these were his ears. I didn't know what they were for a minute. I thought they were cloth hanging down. I had to look at the box. And then yeah, it's just his big floppy ears. So going back to the contrast to get them, and then making sure I get it in the face. Face being one of the primal points of the model. People will focus in on that and look at it a lot, so you want to take your time with it. Make sure it looks nice and cool. The recesses and stuff on his face are just perfect for the likes of contrast. Just gives you stunning detail right off the bat. A big fan of these new models. All the different swamp creatures that are coming out for this army. I'll be doing a video on pretty much all of them, mainly because I love them so much. And I hope you guys get them and get them painted up and enjoy them as much as I do. Nice big dollop now for his forehead, getting his nose and eyes and stuff like that. As you can see, it doesn't really matter where else you hit. Teeth are going to be a different color, and the armored panels on the side of his head are going to be a different color. I'm being a little bit careful with those tufts of fur up on the top of his head, because they're going to be another bright color, which might be a little bit harder to cover over the orange with. So yeah, just take your time. And there we have it. All of the orange is ready to rock and roll on the troll. One of the things I did forget was all of my scare shields and gut plates and stuff like that on this army is also orange. That's to once again help the infantry tie into the monsters. So I had to go back and re-orange up his scare shield chest thing. And there it is when it's all dried. Nice solid coat. Straight off the bat, one coat of contrast. Now we're going to go into the first coat of skin for the rider on top. This is Plaguebearer Flesh is the contrast I use for the first coat of the skin. This is one of those ones where you do need to be a little bit more careful. The model is in quite an awkward place. He's got lots of, like, you see the chain is in the way and he's sitting on a saddle and stuff like that. I did think about trying to keep the two models separate for the painting process, but during the construction of it, I didn't think that was a very feasible. I think it would have been too much hassle to try and reassemble the two models at the end. So I'm just going to persevere and paint them together like this. Unfortunately, the troll steals all the attention away with the camera focus, so it's kind of hard to get the brush strokes in on the guy on top. But it's just a simple coat of Plaguebearer Flesh all over his skin. There we have it. So in love with the power of contrast. So Cygor Brown is what we're going to use for that fur skirt thing that he has. Just a different color brown. We're going to be using a different color again for all of the straps and stuff. But just to distinguish the two parts, I'm going to use Cygor Brown for this. It's going to help start to separate the orange shield on his stomach from his actual body. You just need to take your time. This is a seriously dark color. There's a lot of pigment in this. This will stain the orange. So when you're applying this, try your best not to hit the orange. So like that. Then we're going to carry it through to the entire skirt. So there we have it. There's that all blacked out. Blocked out, should I say. I've also done that kind of pole holding his saddle up, and I've done the saddle itself in the Cygor Brown as well. The next thing that we're going to do is move over to the Nasdrag Yellow. This is the color that I use across my entire army for all of the cloth. So specifically the cloth of the rider on top. And as you can see, he's got that skirt thing dragging down. So apply the Nasdrag Yellow to all of that. And his big fur shoulder thing that he's wearing. I cover all of that with that as well. And also these guys aren't as nasty as they like to portray themselves. They've been nice enough to provide a little adorable pillow at the bottom of that pole holding up the seat, so it's not digging into the troll's back too bad. And I decided to use this Nasdrag Yellow on this particular piece as well. I mean, it's pretty thoughtful. They didn't have to do that, but they did, just to make sure he was a happy troll. I guess you don't really want an angry troll, especially if you're going to be riding around on top of him. Takes no time at all. The dark colors like the Cygor Brown, you can't really stain that with this, so throw it on really quick. I'm going to have to try and find less conspicuous brushes so my camera stops focusing on the brush as opposed to the model and the brush strokes that I'm trying to achieve. There we have it. Adorable little pillow. I've also gone ahead and done his hair with the Nasdrag Yellow as well. The hair on the troll, that is. Gore-Grunta Fur is an absolutely stellar colour. It's my favourite brown colour from the contrast range. And I'm going to use this for all of the kind of straps. I'm actually going to base coat the weapons in them as well. As big clubs are going to get that colour. And the shaft of the spear of the rider is going to get that same Cygor Brown. It's just one coat gorgeous. As you can see, it takes no time at all. And this is all of the parts that I've done that brown colour. As you can see, the troll is pretty much 90% base coated already. Guy on top. Now we go on to, I think, the most tedious part of the entire painting process, and that's base coating all of the metallics on the entire miniature. So we're going to use Leadbelcher for this. We are just going to take our time and pick out anything that is metallic on the model. So starting with the wraps to keep his clubs from splitting during fighting. or maybe to add an extra bit of wallop, I'm not really sure. The big chain the guys riding the troll around with. Any of the rivets and stuff on the kind of stomach shield. The armor on the side of the troll's head. So just any of those kind of bits and pieces. Get a base coat of Leadbelcher. Make sure you take your time. This will of course stain anything else that it touches, so you don't want to hit the brown or anything like that with this particular color. There we have it. There's all the metallics done on the troll. And now it's time to pull all those colors together, and we're going to go for my old trusty Seraphim Sephia. So we're going to shade the entire thing with Sephia now. Nice heavily loaded brush. Apply it to the model and then push it around into all the cracks and crevices. There's very few things that Sephia, in my opinion, won't shade correctly if it's a model like this. Lots of skin, lots of fur, lots of old battered metal. They don't recommend applying Sephia all over a space marine or anything like that, but anything like this, it works perfectly. And there you have it. There's the Seraphim Sephia applied to the entire model, all shaded down. And if you're in a serious rush, you could leave the paint job right here. You have color on every single part of the model. It's well defined, it's well shaded. I'd be happy with that. We're going to spend the rest of this video just highlighting and layering up this model just a little bit. So the first thing we're going to start with is a Ushabti Bone dry brush. This is going to go over pretty much the entire miniature. You might be kind of surprised by this, but it does work really well for shading most things, or for layering most things, should I say. So we're going to start with the skin. And it just kind of brings that like a bit of warmth back into it. Orange isn't a very natural skin tone, but when you pull something like bone or something with a lot of warmth into it like that, it then pulls it back into the direction of looking like a natural thing. Like you could actually see a troll stumbling around with this kind of color skin. There's the difference. Look at the leg to the arm already. Still definitely orange, but more skin-like. The shield is the only bit on his stomach that we don't really need to hit with the bone. As we were saying before, it's the same color as the skin, but we want to pull those in two different directions. So we're going to use a bone dry brush to pull the skin one way, and we'll use a metallic dry brush later on to pull the shield in a different direction, so they look a little bit different. Look like they're made of two different materials, obviously skin and metallic. There it is over that straps. So those straps are literally one contrast, a wash, and a dry brush, and they are 100% done. I can't see why you would put any more effort or work into those straps. They look incredible. Over his face and his hair. Catch his little floppy ears. And the result of that is just... dry brushing is just such an underrated skill. As you can see, we've done all of his back, all the wood bits. Look at the difference between his legs and his upper body. That's what we've achieved with just a 2-3 minutes worth of dry brushing. You may also notice that the model is now based. Well, after I applied the wash to the entire miniature, I took the time to base up the model while I was there. Makes the model look a lot neater and tidier while I'm painting the rest of it. So we forgot that front right leg. Gonna get in with that now. And there we have it. I'm quite pleased with how that skin turned out. Like the straps, it is a contrast, a wash, and a simple dry brush. I'm going to take the time to use the same color to go over most of the rider as well. It's a great little touch-up color for the green skin, the yellow furs, and all of his brown straps. The only thing it kind of doesn't work on in this miniature is the metallics. And it's okay if you hit the metallics, because I'm going to go back later on and layer them up anyway, so you don't need to panic about what you hit here. The only trick is to not go too heavy. You don't want to go too bone on everything. We're just looking to catch all the edges. Even if you're planning on layering up all of these colors later on, a dry brush this really helps because it kind of shows you where you're supposed to highlight the model later on. So when I'm layering up the skin and stuff later on, that where those bone dry brushes have landed is where I'm going to be applying my paint. And this is the bit I was talking about where I'm going to try and pull that stomach shield thing in a different direction. So as you can see, it already doesn't look like the skin already. Hit it with a metallic dry brush. Like it's kind of battered and scraped and it's old, and he obviously doesn't take the best care of his equipment. Here you go, quick and easy. Delighted. Okay, now we're going back to our Ushabti Bone. This time it's not a dry brush though. We are going to take our time and we're going to layer up all the little bone trinkets that are hanging out of his fur pelt. You don't have to go crazy, just a little bit of brushwork. Leave that dark brown and all the cracks and recesses. We're just looking for the highest points on all these little bits. I'm also going to use this color to layer up his teeth. Just got to take your time. Once again, these aren't points that someone's going to kind of pick up the model and scrutinize them. So you don't need 3 layers of highlighting or anything like that. Just get the bone color onto the bone parts. It's that simple. Like I've said a few times before, just focus on things that people are going to be looking at. So for instance, I will spend a lot more time layering up the teeth on the troll, these bits here. Because when someone stops and looks at the model, maybe picks up the model, those are the parts that they're going to be looking at. I'm going to spend a little bit more time layering up the rider on top because they're going to be looking at that. They're going to be picking their way through the fur, being like, oh, that's not a great highlight there on that skull. It doesn't matter. There we have it. Here's all the bone bits done. See his shiny, pearly teeth. Back to Leadbelcher. Like I said before, first time I used it was a dry brush. Now it's kind of a careful layering process. Just the most raised parts of all the metallics are just going to get a few simple brush strokes. Picked out the eye in metallics on his shield, mainly because when I looked at the box I realized their eye is bronze. So yeah, why not? Once again, helps to break up that whole orange motif. And everything else on the model. So those rivets on his shield, the wrappings on his weapons, the chain, the long spear on the guy in the back. All of these bits will get touched up with the silver. Time to layer up the skin on the guy in the back. So Elysian Green is my color of choice. I'm going to show you really quick how to layer up the foot. As you can see where the shade has landed, you can see very clearly where the highlight points are supposed to be and what parts you're supposed to leave dark. And that dry brush has only helped that even further. There you go, it took 10 seconds to highlight that foot. It might take a minute to highlight the actual entire guy. A bit of orange I hit on his big toe there. A little bit of brush stroke to cover that up. That's why I say early on, it doesn't really matter what you hit with what. Most of the layering process will fix any mistakes. And then we go into Balor Brown. And that is to layer up any of the parts that you use the Nasdrag Yellow on. So for the bits of fur, any flat parts I layer up with Balor Brown. If it's the bits that are like fur, I only do around the edges. I don't actually highlight the fur itself. You can see here, just going around the edges. Basically framing the fur. And down onto those flat panels again.
This particular bit is great because the contrast pool a little bit on those particular parts, or the shade, should I say, pool a little bit on those parts. You can see it there. Because I'm going back in and layering the Balor Brown, I can kind of fix the mistake that was. And yeah, tidy it up a little bit. And as you can see, I'm not putting a huge amount of work in. It's not about, you know, perfect highlights or, you know, where the sun is looking at the model dictate. No, just raised bits. This isn't a competition piece. We are literally trying to get armies on the table, trying to get grey models from our backlog painted and looking well. I was going to spend some time later on doing the hair on the troll. And here's the example of what I mean. I'm not going in for the whole fur. I'm just trying to frame around the edges. Like the pelt was treated. And here is the finished result. This is my Mirebrute Troggoth painted to a tabletop standard. I'd say maybe 45 minutes to an hour worth of total painting. So if you sat down for an evening, you would get this guy done.
And there we have it, guys. The Mirebrute Troggoth has been fully painted. As you can see, we leaned heavily on our contrast as usual. Washed it down, a few dry brushes, a few selective layers, and I think we've achieved a really fantastic tabletop standard. If you like what I've done here today, support the channel, subscribe below. Let me know what you thought of the video in the comments section below, and yeah, ask me any questions you like. I do my very best to answer every question that is asked. Yeah, can't wait to see you guys in the next video. Bye.
The plan is simple. We paint them all.